Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayo Radha Gopinath Radha Kichor Gopinath Radhe. Jayo Jagannath Baladeva Subhadra Jayo Sudarshana. Jayo Gauranitai, 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 Jayo Gauranitai. Jayo Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Everyone together please. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. For reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, I should offer respectful obeisances unto Godhead Nara. Narayana Rishi. Learning Srila Vyasadeva author. Ashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. So the super stories. One suggestion of Godhead. Fact. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and when spiritual master opened my eyes to the prospect of knowledge, I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Jai, Hare Krishna. We'll be reading from Canto 10, Chapter 4, The Atrocities of King Kamsa, and we'll be first start by reading text 14 to 24, and then focus will be on text 20. Yes, Velu.
After hearing the words of goddess Durga, Kamsa was struck with wonder. Thus he approached his sister Devaki and brother-in-law Vasudeva, released them immediately from their shackles, and very humbly spoke as follows.
Alas, my sister, alas, my brother-in-law, I am indeed so sinful that exactly like a man-eater, Rakshas, who eats his own child, I have killed so many sons born with you.
Being merciless and cruel, I have forsaken all my relatives and friends. Therefore, like a person who has killed a Brahmana, I do not know to which planet I shall go, either after death or while breathing.
You can. 17.
Alas, not only human beings, but sometimes providence, and I am so sinful that I believe the omen of providence and Christian so many sisters children.
Text 18. O great souls, your children have suffered their own misfortune. Therefore, please do not lament for them. All living entities are under the control of the Supreme, and we cannot always live with it.
In this world, we can see the bodies of earth appear, break, and then disappear, mixing with the earth. Similarly, the bodies of all conditioned living entities are annihilated, but the living entities, like the earth itself, are unchanging and never annihilated. Nahanyate haramani sharine.
One who does not understand the constitutional position of the body and the soul Atma becomes too attached to the bodily concept of life. Consequently, because of attachment to the body and its byproduct, he feels affected by union and thus separation from his family, society and nation. As long as this continues, one continues his material life, otherwise one is liberated.
My dear sister Devaki, all good fortune unto you. Everyone suffers and enjoys the results of his own work under the control of providence. Therefore, although your sons have unfortunately been killed by me, please do not lament for them.
In the bodily conception of life, one remains in darkness without self-realization, thinking, I am being killed, or I have killed my enemies. As long as a foolish person considers the self to be the pillar or kid, he continues to be responsible for material obligations, and consequently he suffers the reactions of happiness and distress.
Come, Shabbat, my dear sister and brother-in-law, please be merciful to such a poor-hearted person as me, since both of you are saintly persons. Please excuse my atrocities. Having said this, Kamsa fell at the feet of Vasudeva and Devaki, his eyes full of tears of regret.
Last text.
Fully believing in the words of goddess Durga, Kamsa exhibited his feminine affection for Devaki and Vasudeva by immediately releasing them from the iron shackles.
Yes, now the focus is on text 20. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 4, text 20. Yatha nevam vidho vedho yat atma viparyayah deha yoga viyogau cha samsriti na nivartate. One more time again together. Yatha nevam vidho bhedo yat atma viparyayah deha yoga viyogau cha samsriti na nivartate.
Yatha nevam vido vedo.
Yatha nevam vidho vedo
Yata atma viparyaya.
yatha atma viparyayah
Deha yoga viyogau cha.
deha yoga viyogau cha
Samshritirnani vartate.
samsritirna nivartate.
Yatha nevam vido vedo.
Yatha nevam vidho vedo
Yata atma viparyaya.
yat atma viparyayah deha yogo viyogau cha
Samsatir nani vartante.
samsritirna nivartate.
Yatha nevam vidho vedo
Yata atma viparyaya.
Yata atma viparyayah deha yoga viyogau cha samsritirna nivartate. Yatha nevam vidho bhedo yat atma viparyayah yoga viyogau cha samsritirna nivartate. Synonyms all together, please, for time's sake. Yatha, as, and evam vidha, of a person who has no knowledge about Atma Tattva and the steadiness of the Atma in his own identity, despite the changes of the body. Bheda, the idea of difference between the body and self. Yatha, the first of which, Atma Viparyayah, foolish running of the one's body. Deha yogo viyogau cha, and this causes connection and separations among different bodies. Sriti, the continuation of continual life, not nivartate, does stop. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace S.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One who does not understand the constitutional position of the body and the soul, Atma, becomes too attached to the bodily concept of life. Consequently, because of attachment to the body and its byproducts, he feels affected by union with and separation from his family, society, and nation. As long as this continues, one continues his material life. Otherwise, one is liberated. Who would like to read the purport? Okay, Jivadaya Prabhu, you can start off and then we can go ahead.
As confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 126,
Ipamsam puro dharma yato bhakti radokshate aritukeya paritihata jayatma suprasidati.
the word dharma means engagement. One who is engaged in the service of Lord, yato bhakti adhokshate, without impediment and without
Cessation.
cessation, is understood to be situated in his original spiritual status. When one is promoted to this status, one is always happy in transcendental bliss. Otherwise, as long as one is in the bodily concept of life, one must suffer material conditions. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukha, Doshonudarshanam. The body is subject to its own principles of birth, death, old age, and disease. But one who is situated in spiritual life, Yato Bhakti Adhokshade, has no birth, no death, no old age, and no disease. One may argue that we may see a person who is spiritually engaged 24 hours a day but is still suffering from disease. In fact, however, he is neither suffering nor diseased. Otherwise, he could not be engaged 24 hours a day in spiritual activities. The example may be given in this connection that sometimes dirty foam or garbage is seen floating on the water of the Ganges. This is called Nira Dharma, a function of the water. But one who goes to the Ganga does not mind the foam and dirty things floating in the water. With his hand, he pushes away such nasty things, bathes in the Gangas, and gains the beneficial results. Therefore, one who is situated in the spiritual status of life is unaffected by foam and garbage, or any superficial dirty things. This is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami.
Line Prabhu.
Se
karmana manasarya nikhayasva piya jivan mukta samuchyate.
A person acting in the service of Krishna with his body, mind, and words is a liberated person even within the material world. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.187. Therefore, one is forbidden to regard the Guru as an ordinary human being. Gurushu namate narakisa. The spiritual master or acharya is always situated in the spiritual status of life. Birth, death, old age, and disease do not affect him. According to Hari Bhakti Vilas, therefore, after the disappearance of an acharya, his body is never burned to ashes, for it is a spiritual body. The spiritual body is always unaffected by the material condition.
Jai Hari Baba. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna. Jai. It's so wonderful to see everyone. The pressure is also on here. But I would like to first take the blessings of His Holiness Bhakti Goswami Maharaj and all the devotees present here. And thank you so much for allowing me to serve the Srimad Bhagavatam today. Yeah, it's such a beautiful scripture. And right now we are in Canto 10, one of the most beautiful pastimes of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we are right now in chapter 4. And what's going on in chapter 4? Would anyone like to summarize anything that why is Kamsa suddenly changed into this kind of, into Krishna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra? Yes, Samalahinam Prabhu.
So, till now what has happened is Krishna has taken birth, demigods came offered their prayers and everything happened, then Nand Maharaja took him back, actually took him to Gokula and then bring Yog Maya back, and then now after
You said Nandaman.
sorry. Also they put it there in Gokula and came back with Yog Maya, and now Kansa, as soon as he was about to kill Yog Maya, goddess Durga appeared, and then she spoke to Kansa that blah blah, like the person is already born who's supposed to kill you.
Yeah.
And then after everything happened, Kamsa just realized, and then he opened the shackles of Devaki and Vasudeva, and he said, no, he's saying that I'm a stupid brother, I should not have done this. And yeah, the story continues.
Okay, Jai, thank you so much. So so who and how did Yogamaya appear? Does anyone know? What is her name in this specific word? Yes, Durga. Yes. What does Durga mean? Anyone? Fortress. Yes, a fortress. She's the one who protects and controls this material world that we live in right now. And why does Kamsa listen to Yogamaya? Kamsa never heard anyone else. He wanted to kill the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why did he listen to Yogamaya here?
Because she's the goddess he prayed.
Correct. Very nice. So yeah, she's a god. He's a devotee of Yogamaya. But you also notice duality of Kamsa here. In many cases, that and this duality is also seen in today's material world. And this duality, of course, you see it in the verses as we read along. That first he starts by saying, he's like, I'm sorry, I know, and he's bound down to the feet of Vasudeva and Devaki. And then next he's like, it was your fault, it was your children. Akashvani came and someone said something, and why did you produce such children who are going to kill me? And then he goes on to say, no, I'm again sorry for what I've done. And we have seen such friends in life as well, who suddenly change up. For example, like when I came to Krishna consciousness, my cousins were shocked to see me later on, and they were like, what's happened to you, Ishaan? You were like Kamsa, now you've become like this pure devotee kind of different person, who's just speaking softly and not doing anything. So and we see that change here with Kamsa. It's like Kamsa, you were like this person killing babies. That was kind of the worst offenses to commit, kill babies. And that to the babies of his own sister. That is something, and he was doing that in ignorance. But now he's just changed automatically. And this is the reality of Kali Yuga. We see this everywhere, that such individuals are present everywhere, who first commit offenses and then come and beg at the feet of the Lord, and come and beg at the feet of the pure devotee, and then again keep on repeating those same offenses. And that is something which someone has to be very careful of. And that is not only some people, but every one of us is guilty of that kind of crime. That we unfortunately commit offenses. We have the 10 offenses to the holy name. That is the most easiest offenses to commit. That's why we try to read it out every day, try to remind ourselves before chanting that, these are the offenses that I have to avoid. But these are some offenses that are very easy to break. And then again we come and again ask Krishna again while chanting, Krishna, please forgive me because I shouted at Amala Harinam Prabhu because he was irritating me, or I shouted at someone else, I slapped Himanshu Prabhu because, he did not give me his chocolate, that's why. So these are things that one should avoid, and this is something that is, this duplicitous nature is very, very prominent in Kali Yuga. This also reminds me of, especially in today's day, in today's day and age, demoniac nature is very easy to come in, especially in Brahmanas. And who are the Brahmanas in today's age? The teachers, the professors that we have, Although one may talk a lot about, preaching and talk about, that this is wrong and that is right and war is wrong and this is good, and but yet the teachers themselves advocate for this and practice this, especially breaking of the 4 regulative principles in today's day and age and in education system is glorified, So this kind of duplicitous nature, what Kamsa has, is also seen in other people today. And again, this personality, of course, is called, if you look at it in psychological terms, it's called narcissistic personality, where you do commit an offense and you blame it on the victim, right? He's committing the offense, and then Kamsa says in one of the verses previously, oh great souls, your children have suffered so much misfortune, but it is your fault that they were to be born in your womb, So he again blames it back to the victim, and we see this everywhere. This happens, and this personality trait is an example of Kali Yuga, and that's why Kamsa represents Kali Yuga, and we'll talk about why he represents Kali Yuga because of his previous life forms as well. And but of course, one very important thing in this verse that Kamsa talks about is not having attachment to the body. Can we go? This is the translation here. Understand the constitutional position of the body and the soul. He talks about Atma Tattva, that the soul is indestructible. If you get too attached to the bodily concept of this body, it's not good, and this you're affected by the union and separation from society and from family and from people, and and if one continues to have this separation, one will never be liberated. Again, this is the same thing that what people are doing today. Some people go on to give so many excuses to their offenses that they don't even realize that they are doing so much aparad. They even use Shastra to support their offenses. And this is the wrong thing to do, right? Using the Shastra and blaspheming the scriptures in this position is also wrong, which Kamsa is doing here. But of course, and Kamsa is not just some ordinary person. He's a king of a great empire and kingdom in Mathura. And he's been trained into all of this because he knows, he studied the Vedas, he studied the scriptures. So that tells us that he knows all of this, and he knows the scriptures, and he understands what the Lord is trying to say in the Vedas, and in all the Vedangas and Upanishads. But yet he's committing offenses. He's yet committing offenses. And what is the learning lesson behind this? Especially if you see in our situation, sometimes we may find it very easier to go out and preach to thousands of people, and tell them, oh, my Guru Maharaj said this, or Srila Prabhupada said this, chant the name, chant, do this, do that, But then after that, we also contemplate, are we doing those things or not, Especially while chanting, right? Are we chanting attentively? No. Are we chanting on time? No. Are we dedicatedly following the 10 offenses or the 4 regulative principles? Maybe not. But then it's very easy for us to go and speak outside. But when it comes to us, when it comes to preaching ourselves, when it comes to reading the books ourselves, it becomes so difficult, right? For me, for example, I can go and distribute, I have not read Krishna book, but then when I distributed one, then I realized, I need to read this, because when someone asked me a question about Krishna book, I was like, well, that's a good question, but I've not read this book yet. How can I answer this question? So the idea is that of course, that doesn't mean you should not distribute Prabhupada books, because one has full trust on Srila Prabhupada that whatever he's written is nice and will help the people of this world. But of course, we should take efforts to also read, and we should also take efforts to follow the same instructions that we are giving back to this world. That makes us more confident in our preaching efforts, and that makes us more, and it makes us, we can understand what we are saying, right? Rather than just repeating like a parrot, which most of the Brahmanas tend to do today, we have to be like Parivrajaka. So we have to be Goshtanandis, right? The one who goes out and speaks about the scriptures, one who goes and preaches about the scriptures. And how can one preach and speak about the scriptures? Only by reading the scriptures. So that is something really important, and that is the importance of reading Srimad Bhagavatam, which every one of us are doing here. And of course, many of us are going out and preaching as well, preaching in the temple, going out and distributing books. So this is the best thing to do, because if you don't do that, then we'll become like Kamsa. Using the Shastric concepts to chastise somebody and to blame things on somebody. And that type of personality comes within us if you're not engaged in service. So that is really important in that way. Yesterday, I was listening. Me and Monil Prabhu, we were walking in. I forgot the place. Where did we go yesterday? Yeah, Taylor Creek Park, where Prabhupada walked long ago, and we were listening to Prabhupada's lecture yesterday. And Prabhupada also was speaking about this topic, and I was so surprised, because I was contemplating on, I have to speak tomorrow about this, or, I need to discuss this verse tomorrow, and Prabhupada just spoke about it, yesterday in his just random lecture in Toronto, especially in June 21st, 1976, he spoke about this, that, this is material life, people know what to do and what not to do, yet they are bewildered by false ego. Prabhupada says false egotism or egoism. People are bewildered by their own personality, and people are bewildered by the material modes of nature and do not understand the real concepts of life. So yeah, and this is an example. And Kamsa here very cleverly speaks about not being detached. Being, you got to be detached. You have to make sure that you're not attached to the body of these children. These children who have died. But he himself is doing everything because he's attached to this body, isn't it? He's killing those babies because he wants to live longer. He's killing those children because he wants to make sure that he's in power and no one else is. Inside he knows that, I'm doing something wrong. That's why he comes here and asks for forgiveness. But his ahankara or false ego comes in the place. So that is something. And Srila Prabhupada also speaks about it. Yesterday in the same lecture that we were listening to, Srila Prabhupada, an Indian man comes and starts giving his lesson, separate lecture on detachment to Srila Prabhupada. Like, Srila Prabhupada, and he's like, Prabhuji, he's like, detachment, we should have detachment. A lot of people are not detached from the body. And Prabhupada is like, that is all bogus propaganda. And I was like, how? But don't we have to be detached from this material body? Prabhupada says, you cannot be detached. You have to be attached to something. And what is that? Our duty towards Krishna, our service attitude towards Krishna. That is the only thing that we need to be attached to is Krishna. We humans are, and the human body or the Jivatma, the soul, the super soul, the soul within us is made in such a way that it has to be attached to something. Either we are attached to sense gratification or we are attached to Krishna. We need to choose which one we want to choose, which one we have to be in what state we have to be in. And Prabhupada mentions, real detachment means everything belongs to Krishna. Because yesterday we were walking in the park, so beautiful lands and nature and huge. Canada is one of the, I think it's not one of the largest countries, but it comes in one of the second largest countries in the world, with the best freshwater resources in the world, and of course huge land. But Prabhupada was saying, but no one is willing to give this land in service of Krishna. Once this land is used in the service of Krishna, and the fact that we know that I don't have rights to this land, but Krishna has rights to this land, then this land becomes more pure. And that's what Prabhupada talks about. That is real detachment. The fact that we give everything back to Krishna, and not that we keep everything to ourselves. Especially, during service, sometimes we may say, oh, I did this. Oh, I sang today. I sang Guru Puja today. I cooked this for Gopinath. Of course, we cooked it. But who's making us do this? It's Krishna only, right? We are part and parcel of Krishna, right? So the idea is that the fact that if you think that it is mine and falsely claim that everything is mine, this is attachment, and that's unnecessary. That's what Srila Prabhupada talks about. Now, now again coming back to Kamsa, and Kamsa, what is one inherent quality within Kamsa that is making him do all of this? Although Kamsa is a good guy, he's a good person, right? Because initially he was riding the chariot of his own sisters, and his sister was getting married, and he was riding the chariot, and out of somewhere someone comes and tells him that, oh, her son is going to kill you, and then he out of nowhere he just becomes angry, and he just loses his equipoise, and he just goes and he wants to kill her at that moment. But what causes him to become like that?
Insecurity.
Yes, insecurity.
Attachment to bodily conception also.
Anyone else?
Power trip.
Yes, power trip. What else? And what is the one inherent quality that we have as humans that causes us to do this? Fear, that is true.
Fear of death.
Fear of death. Fear is one as well.
Collecting more than required.
Collecting more than required. Yes, false ego. That is what I was looking for. False ego, ahankara. And ahankara is one thing. And where does ahankara come from? Anyone?
False identification.
False identification is what?
Body. We are this body.
Yeah, but what is false identification? Ignorance, right? That we are in ignorance, avidya. Right? That is the reason why we are taking birth again and again in this planet. The fact that we are always in avidya. And where does avidya come from?
No,
Avidya. Ignorance.
Sense gratification.
Yes, it comes from sense gratification, but of course, desire and choice, yes. And forgetfulness of Krishna. And why are we forgetting Krishna? Because we are constantly here, taking birth again and again and again. And because of this, and that is because of avidya. And of course, we know, and Maya is constantly trying to fool us and keep us here, pull us here, like how our mother pulls us back. Don't go there, don't do this. Pull us here. Maya is of course made up of two types. Anyone who knows? What are the two types of Maya?
Yogamaya, Mahamaya.
Maya, very nice. And within Yogamaya, Vidya comes. Mahamaya. Sorry, my fault. And of course, avidya is in which mode of nature? It's in which ignorance, right? It's in ignorance. And of course, it's because it's in ignorance, that is what is keeping us back here. And avidya has been continuing because our soul is timeless. It's been continuing since a long time. So avidya has also been continuing with it. The fact that we've been ignoring Krishna, pushing him away from us, that's what is helping, and that is what is causing us to again and again and again and again come back to this, come back to this body. And we have two types of body. What are those two types? Anyone?
Subtle and gross.
Subtle and gross. And who made our subtle body?
My deeper intelligence.
Yeah, that is there, but who made it? Brahmaji, right? He made our subtle body. And of course, Jivatma comes from Krishna himself, Karno Daksha Vishnu. And this subtle body is based on different things. It is based on chitta, it is based on buddhi, mana, and the last thing is ahankara, which is again false ego. Right? So this subtle body is made of false ego. We are covered in false ego, and it's like how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpanam Arjuna. We need to clean this body. We need to clean the mirror and make it more clearer for us so that we can see Krishna. And that's why we're covered in this ahankara. And that's why this ahankara is the cause for the jiva or the jivatma, which is made by Krishna himself, to think that I am this body. Although this body is not me, I've been through separate bodies, I've been through so many bodies. But these things, ahankara, it causes us, a false ego, it causes us to stay in this body and think that we are this body. And this false ego then creates abhimana, which is identity, that identification that we are this body. And this is not me. It's just the same example, like, how we try to, there's so many identities that we try to stick to, right? Often in this world, identity crisis is such a big issue, right? So many people are fighting for their identity. I want to be this person, I want to be that person. I identify as a certain thing, I identify as a certain person, I identify with a certain religion, with a certain caste, or with a certain faith or region or nationality. But these things are keeping us back. Any kind of false identification, that is with the human body, keeps us back. And if one understands this, it's a big thing. But is Kamsa understanding this? He's speaking about this. He's saying the exact stuff. He's saying the exact same thing. But is he understanding this? No. And why is that so? Why is he not understanding this?
Because of
Avidya.
But I raised my hand.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Because he's envious of Krishna?
Correct. He's envious of Krishna. And this envy is a big problem here. Not only now, of course, and we see envy in our daily lives as well, And it's so subtle that we don't even understand, oh, envy is here, and just takes us over and slides us away from Krishna. The fact that we want to be that person. And envy is also not healthy. And we see that in today's world. Because we envy Krishna, now we're here. And this is causing a lot of havoc here. And that's why, right? So, and the fact that this envy causes us to, connect with our body and then this envy then leads to identification that I am this body. I possess the qualities that this body has. I'm strong, I can write well, I can sing well. These are all, again, identification with the body, Nayanam chindanti shastrani. The soul cannot be cut into different pieces, Yet we think that we can be cut. Of course, this body can be cut, but then the soul starts associating with the body. Although the soul is different from this body, but then this mixes up together and becomes like this mixture, like how sometimes we, we mix these two things and it then becomes inseparable. In chemistry, there are these homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures, where the things mix. There's this kind of mixture that you cannot separate, but this can be separated. This identity can be separated, and what cause and how can we separate this identity? Does anyone know?
Could you repeat that?
How can we separate this false identity that we have, that we are this body, and how can we separate the soul from the body?
By chanting?
Which is bhakti. Right? Yeah. Bhakti causes us to get away from that identity. In this pastime that we are celebrating right now, of course, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Mother Yashoda is right running behind with him with a stick to beat him up. Why does Krishna need to run? He can play his tricks and keep her away, which he did with the rope and everything. But why is that so? Because Mother Yashoda is, with her love, can only bind Krishna together. It's only her love that allows her to come close to Krishna and allows her to tie him up with the rope. It's only her love that causes that. And we see that this love is seen in devotees, it's very common in devotees, this love. And we see that with Devaki and Vasudeva as well. And because Devaki and Vasudeva, as soon as Kamsa comes and asks for forgiveness, they forgive him. Who will forgive a person who has killed like how many babies? Around 6 babies of yours. It's a very tiring process. If anyone is a mother here, they know it's a very tiring process of giving birth to a child. And again, immediately coming and killing the child. It's not easy. It's not easy for a mother, it's not easy for a father, especially, of course, when you're too attached. But yet they let go of it. Why is that so? Because devotees practice compassion, right? And they know, of course, the Lord is with them. The Lord has already taken birth. Now we are saved. And they are doing their duty. And that is what our attitude should be, of duty to Krishna. That our body is made to serve Krishna. And that is our duty. And this duty carries forward again and again and again, till our life ends, and then we can go back to Krishna. Anya Bhilashita Shunnu. That is our duty. Anukuli, and the same verse, it says, Anukuliyena Krishna, Krishna Anushilanam. It says that everything that we offer to Krishna, or anything that is done in Krishna's service, is good for ourselves. Offer that everything to Krishna. And that is the highest bhakti. And that's what Prabhupada spoke as well in his lecture, in his morning walk, that having, that of course, the highest level of detachment is what? Yes, to serve Krishna, to associate everything with Krishna. That is the highest level of detachment. The rest is all attachment. And Prabhupada says that with conviction. And that is something that only an acharya can say, a conviction. Sometimes it's not easy for us to comprehend what Prabhupada says, it hurts our ego. It's like, wow, how can, when I came to Krishna consciousness, I was listening to Prabhupada's lectures, and the answer to everything was chanting. It's like, how can you chant all the time, The answer to everything is chanting, The answer to, how do you do well in education? Chant. How do you, do well in material life? Chant. How do you maintain good relations with friends? Chant. So, and then I was like, but then, because I was not trying this out, I didn't know the actual effects of chanting, right? But once you try it out and see, then you understand that, So again, coming back, so we have, by offering everything to the Lord, that is how we come more closer to Krishna and utilize ourselves, utilize this body as a property of Krishna. Only Krishna has proprietorship to this body. And of course, once we connect the wire of our consciousness with the supreme light bulb, once we connect our wire, supreme Krishna's light bulb, the knowledge of the light bulb of knowledge lights up. And what fuels that is our chanting. Often our body is, in fact, compared to a chariot, but let's not take chariot as an example. Let's take car as an example. So often, let's say the body is this car, and it's running. And who's the driver of this car? The soul, correct. And he's the driver of this car. And what is fueling the car?
Desires.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, desire is fueling the car. But what else is fueling this car?
I want to say intelligence.
Well, yes, that's true. Yeah. But of course, the soul is driving this car, right? So of course, desire is fueling this car. But this desire can be also changed into something else, right? This desire, yes, devotional service. So devotional service should fuel our car. And what fuels the soul? Yes, and anything else that we were talking about? Chanting. So chanting fuels the soul. And that is how that soul is, when it's fueled up, it can drive the car. Again, Anukulena Krishna, Krishna Anushilanam. Bhakti consists of serving Krishna and his devotees favorably. And that is how it is. And that is what Devaki and Vasudeva were doing. That although Kamsa had killed their babies and Kamsa was blaming everything on them, and they were like in a helpless situation, what should I do? But yet they were very compassionate enough to, to forgive Kamsa. In Bhagavad Gita, we learn the 9 qualities of a Brahmana. Does anyone know what are the 9 qualities?
Cleanliness, honesty, purity, self-control.
Self-control and religiousness. Is it possible to pull that up? Sure. So 9 qualities. Out of that, is compassion one of the qualities of a Brahmana? Yes. Compassion is right. And this is what they had. Compassion. Compassion towards such a being who had gone against them. Right? Compassion is one of those qualities that Devaki and Vasudeva had. And that is something that every devotee should have, compassion towards each other. That even though someone does something wrong, but let someone is taking up that credibility to come and ask for forgiveness and maybe improve in the future, which Kamsa does not. It is a good idea for us to be compassionate towards that person. And that is one of the main qualities that devotees possess, to be compassionate towards somebody. So my dear Prabhus, please be compassionate, to each other. Let's say if someone eats your rasmalai, don't go and shout at them, or someone comes and steals your chappals and takes it to the washroom. It's okay, allow them to do that. But being compassionate is something that we can all learn from Devaki and Vasudeva. Although, of course, we should not be in the position of Kamsa to first commit offenses and then blame everything on the victim. Realization that the fact, and of course Kamsa realizes that here, that he has committed an offense. But offense over offense and offense is happening. And what causes that offense? It's his association, which of course the later verses cover. It's the association of his ministers, who again ask him to commit offense over offense over offense. So the correct association which we have here in BA is very, very important. So yes, that's it. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. You can open out to any reflections or any refutations or anything I missed out on or any clarifications. Yes, Manal Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. It was very informative and lot to learn from class. So we were talking about duplicious nature, and you said that duplicious nature is it's also written that it's nature of kind of rakshas. And so my question is, how do we recognize if someone else is duplicious? We will recognize that by their behavior and whatever the action is. But how do we recognize if we are duplicious? Because what happens is these qualities, when someone else have, we will recognize it immediately that this person like that. But when we have it, it's kind of hidden to us, ever.
Correct.
The whole world will notice, but we will not notice it.
Yeah.
Sometimes if we don't have that kind of relations, then it's very hard also for people to come and talk to us and correct us. So how do we recognize if we have this kind of duplicious nature?
I think the first thing, so of course reflection is very important in every devotee's life. Often we just tend to follow things and we do not reflect back on it, and what am I doing? And this reflection comes also through feedback. So asking from feedback, of course, not from everyone, of course that is something we cannot do, but being open to feedback and constructive criticism is the first thing to do. Second thing, to have a person who you can reach out to, let's say you have this kind of feeling that, oh, maybe I have something like this going on within me, but I didn't know about it, and I yet feel I don't have that. Then it's good to confirm it with a second person, maybe some senior, maybe some mentors, to people who you trust, or even friends for that matter, who you can disclose what's going on within your mind. So that is something that one can do, and that helps us be in a more humble state of nature. So that is something that one can, and of course by being in service, one then contemplates and reflects, and by being with devotee association with devotees, and understanding and receiving feedback from the devotees is one of the great measures that we have in this movement, and it's a great way of reflecting on what has happened. Again, and journaling about that, that what you did. And once you journal and you write about your day, and then you realize, oh, maybe I did something wrong here, or maybe I did something bad about this. Many people unfortunately don't have this kind of like when they commit some offense, they don't even realize that and that's what the question is, right? They don't realize, and it's very difficult to get that kind of sensitivity to people. But by being open to feedback and making sure that you are asking people about it, Prabhu, are you fine, or did I say something wrong about did my words harm you? Then that is something, that is one way in which one can do that. Prabhu.
Thank you.
Okay. What else? Anyone else? Any chance? Any reflections? Any corrections where I can improve?
How would you behave when somebody is biased towards you?
That's a good question. Somebody is biased towards you. So, so do you is it possible to be more specific? So,
Anything like, so maybe serving pushadam, receiving more paneer to somebody.
Well, that's the mercy of the devotees that they are biased towards you. But then you should tell them. You can also confront them about this, Prabhu. I think you should also look at others about this. But also, biasness is also one form of love, and maybe you can give back to somebody else the same, not biasness, but pass it on to somebody. For example, they're giving you an extra slice of pizza. So not me, you give it to my friend. So if you're getting that love, spread it with your friends. Like how Krishna would sit and he would share everything and eat with his friends. Oh, you take this laddu. Oh, Madhumangal, you eat this. And Madhumangal would snatch it and take it from Krishna. So sharing that love with others, if someone is being biased towards you. Of course, biasness can be good and bad in some situations. But we can change that. We cannot change the person in front of us, but we can change it ourselves by sharing it with others. Sharing the love that we receive with others. Sharing whatever we receive, to first with Krishna and then with others. That is something that we can do. Yes, Amlayanam Prabhu.
Prabhu, you mentioned this line, Anukulena Krishna Anushilana. Can you just elaborate that a little?
So this is, I think, verse from the Nectar of Devotion 1.1.11. So, and this basically means that bhakti consists of serving Krishna and his devotees. So Anukulena Krishna, whatever is good in the service of Krishna, whatever works out in the service of Krishna, that is what our target should be. And Krishna and his devotees, not only Krishna, but that is what our target should be. Nothing else. That should be our target. So that is a very good contemplation as well. That sometimes you don't. Sometimes you do things that maybe is unnecessary, right? So those are things, prajalpa especially, is to be avoided, because that is not being helped or used in the service of Krishna. So yeah, anyone else would like to add to that? If you could expand on the verse Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam.
I think Prabhupada mentioned in one of his purport that shunya means not to whatever desires you have, transfer it towards or develop it towards serving Krishna. So that's actually the meaning of shunya. Not that you will have no desires.
Yeah.
You will have desires, but we call it desires to serve Krishna. That is actually the meaning of shunya.
Detachment. That is the real detachment of serving Krishna and his devotees, and nothing else. Anything else, Prabhus? Then we can end here. Thank you so much. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Sorry, Maharaj, would you like to add? Yes, Maharaj.
Very nice, very nice. I would slow down your speed.
Yes, Maharaj, yes.
Oh my God. I give you a ticket.
Yes, Maharaj.
But you'll be effective if you slow down.
Yes, Maharaj.
50%.
Thank you. Yes.
So, but it's good. The content is good. Just let people breathe a little bit. That's